Hello, welcome back to the Rusty Nuts. Tonight, you join me and Bob. It's a pretty cold, chilly night, and I am taking a look at these little buggers, which are Series 3 brake light switches that mount into the servo. Now, these things are naff. They fail all the time, and I've been having no end of issues with them since Bob's been back on the road, constantly failing. Now, whilst these are normally a problem, I think I've got something different going on, and it happened that the other night our neighbour messaged us and said, your lights are still on your Land Rover. And I thought, that's weird. I've not had the lights on. Like, I've not even been out in him. And I'm guarantee I would have spotted it because Bob's parked right against our living room window, so I would see it. So I came out, had a look, and turns out the brake lights had just decided to illuminate and come on. So it showed that there's a permanent live to that. Now, I think that's my problem. So I think that the permanent live is putting that crappy Chinese switch under 24 volt permanent load and is then causing it to arc out, hit the contacts, and then it's basically knackered. So what I'm going to do tonight, whip the fuse box off, switch it round, because obviously the feed from the fuse box is going to the switch and it's on a permanent live circuit at the minute, so I'm going to put it on ignition live. And then I've put some LED bulbs in the back as well, just to try and prolong the life a little bit as a temporary measure. So I spoke to Mick, and Mick said, why don't we convert it to a Series 2 2A brake pedal switch instead? So I've got all the bits for that, the ones that Mick told me to get. So I've got the bracketry from the 2A, and I've got the switch, which is a PRC 4297, which is from a Defender, but fits perfectly into the bracket. My only problem is Bob's pedal is slightly different. It's genuine, but I think because it's a later Series 3 right at the end of the production line, I'm going to have to do a few modifications to get this to work. So before I do that, I'm going to try and do a bit of a stealth mod. So what I'm going to do is fit a relay to try and limit the load that's going on that switch. So that switch won't be taking as much. The relay will handle all that. So a 24 volt relay, wire it all in nicely, tuck it away behind the dashboard so we don't see it. And hopefully that's going to solve my problems and I keep the original setup. If not, then we'll look to fabricate something down here that isn't as genuine, still using genuine Land Rover parts, but and then we can get that to work. But in the interim, I just want something that works so I can go out and Bob and I don't want to run him illegally and not have brake lights. Obviously, if you're out on the road and it fails, you've got to get home, so you have to do it. But knowingly going out without them working is not on. So I need to get it sorted. So tonight, we'll whip this off, sort the fuse out. I'll adjust up the Lucas one of these. So I bought a Lucas one, which is on, and that has failed. I can bring them back to life with some contact cleaner and some dielectric grease, so that's fine. I'll get it back to life. But I will say the Lucas one, quality-wise, this is a £4 one from Craddock's, and this one cost me nearly 20 quid with delivery. There's no visual difference in quality. Whether the insides are better, don't know, but I wouldn't bet on it. They're both made in China, and they're both probably pieces of junk. If you can get the one with a small nib on the end of the brake light switch, generally in a green Lucas box, but don't rely on the pictures online because the one I ordered was in a green Lucas box and I got a Lucas Classic Chinese special, so you kind of get what you get, don't you? So let's have a look, see if this works. Hopefully with the lower draw from the LEDs, and forgive me if my electrical terminology is off, I am not an auto electrician and would never claim to kind of know anything really, so I'm just taking a steer from people I've spoken to like Mick, Liam, and also if you look at it, ChatGPT is actually a really good resource to ask a few questions and get a bit of knowledge and stuff. So I've used that a little bit as well. So let's get this off, we'll sort this out, change the feed on the fuse box, I'll adjust that switch up, and let's see if we get brake lights back. Got myself a little, what I think is a bargain anyway, some 12 volt Parkside, what are they called, performance tools. So you got a drill driver, you can take the drill end off, so it's just like looks a bit like an impact, but it's just a driver, and then an impact driver as well. 49 quid, thought it was a bargain. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Parkside, so I think we get this wheel off first and get that out of the way. Let's see if this oh, nearly knocked my brew off actually. See if this guy can loosen this nut up. Well, it can't defeat Dave type. I put that on. Right. That's the reason I fancied a couple of these little lights bright in it. Some 12 volts. It's just they're like easy to maneuver and get into little spaces rather than my 18 volt stuff. And yes, right. We have fuse box. Right, I've just moved the brake light switch one up. The way I found it is I know that on that bank of fuses there, the two green and brown wires, one was the hazard light switch and the other one was the brake light switch. Because the brake lights aren't working, I can't press the brake pedal to see if it works. So all I did was put the hazards on, disconnected one of them, the hazard stopped flashing, so I knew that was a hazard switch. The other one then I know must be the brake light switch, so I've moved that over. So that's kind of that done. What I'm going to do is though, I'm going to go and set up the brake light switch now, make sure that's working before I put all this back, and then find I've got a problem and have to take it off again. So let's move around to the front. Right, so under here you can see the position of the brake light switch. It just screws into the servo. Like I was saying, you have a lock nut on there that holds then its position, and then you have the two wires. So you have the green and brown, which is coming in here at the top, which is then coming from the fuse box in, so that's bringing our feed in. And then you have green and purple, which generally in the Lucas wiring, your green and purple is for your lights. So this is going back to the brake lights then, so it will be travelling up the loom and up to the lights. So what we know then is, when I come to do the relay, it's quite easy then to know which one's going to which of the modern relay and things like that. But what I'm going to do now is just, I'm going to whip the pedal lock off, because we've got a pedal lock on, just test the brakes. I don't think they're going to work. We'll adjust that up. We'll take the plunger right out, check it to make sure it's working before I faff around for ages and then realise it's actually not working. And then adjust it up. And hopefully we get brake lights with the ignition on. So we need to remember now this time to put the ignition on. So we're going to take the pedal lock off. Okay, so I promise you I have done nothing other than take the pedal lock off. But the brake lights weren't working at all. Now that I've switched that over, if I press the pedal back there, bloody brake lights are working. So I think what we do is we reassemble the dash, and then I'm probably not going to get a chance tonight, but once it's light tomorrow, I might get a chance. Maybe we should just go for a spin. I'll put a camera on the back because it's dark, I'll see better. But I'm thinking, do we just take it for a spin and then see if the brake lights are still working after a couple of miles? Because generally I'll get up the road, and I've gone out a few times now at night, tested it as I've gone up the road, and I can see the reflection through the back, especially down a dark country lane, and they're working. By the time I've got back, park up, think the problem's solved, I've gone to go out again and gone, oh, bloody lights aren't working. So yeah, maybe we get out for a spin tonight. If not, I'll film it whenever I do take a spin, and you'll see the results to see if it's still working. But it seems like even just that little change from a permanent live to ignition live has helped it. But I don't know why the brake switch would have just suddenly started working. It seems a bit odd, but hey ho. Land Rovers are sent to test us, and we are working in the illogical world of a Land Rover, because Land Rover. So yeah, let's get this back together and then we can go and test it. But the feed's changed, so I know the brake lights are working. In fact, what I should do, the ignition is on. Let's turn that ignition off. You guys can be my eyes. Nothing. Ignition on. Something. Woohoo! I feel like I've achieved something that is, all I've done is switch a terminal over on a fuse box. So yeah, not anything amazing, but I'm going to take every victory you get. Right, we're on our test drive. It is the next day. Got my little helper in here. Hello! And we're going to see if the brake lights are going to stay working. So I don't know if you can see out the back now. Might be able to zoom in on that for you, but they are 100% working. So that's what we're testing, aren't we? To see if the brake lights stay working now. Bob's nice and warmed up. People, if you're in a Land Rover and you see another Land Rover, you have to wave, it's the law. Ooh, a big bump, wasn't it? Right, we've done a few lanes, we're on our way back now, and then we're going to check to see if the brake lights are sorted. I've had most of the bits arrive today for fitting the relay, so I can crack on with that as soon as, I think I'm just waiting on the relay, the 24-volt relay, so as soon as that's here, I can get that done. But I'm hoping, just for now, moving that feed and putting the LED lights in, the bulbs will make it continue to operate, but we'll see. Been a good little trip around the lanes, probably been out for about 15, 20 minutes. And hopefully then, they're still working, which is more than they have been. Right, we've just got back and we're gonna now test the brake lights and see if they work. Eves, you shout if they work, yeah? You ready? What? We got brake lights? They're still working?
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's true, it's just moving it from that feed on the fuse has fixed it. Ugh. I'm still going to wire in the relay, but it just shows the difference that makes, isn't it? Going from that permanent live means that that switch is now is back to life. So that's fantastic. I'm really pleased with that because it means we can still go out in Bob like that, you know, just for little jaunts and stuff and use him. So I'm planning on using him tomorrow because I'm going down to my mum's to do some work. So yeah, awesome. Well, that's well good. So I'm not sure whether I'll film on this one now doing the relay. I'll save that for another video, but I think the relay would still be good just because I think it's going to prolong those switches, because I think those switches are only going to last like 3 to 6 months without it, whereas with the relay I think they'll probably last indefinitely. So I think it's a good mod to do. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little video, just solving one of the common problems with a series Land Rover. We're uploaded on every Sunday and all the usual links are below, so if you're enjoying the content, do drop a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.